Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we talk about the latest news, information and analysis of what's really going on in Russia and the BRICS. Now, my name is Rhod Mackenzie, and today I want to talk about how in Washington the Finnish President Alexander Stubb has been forced to defend his comparison of Ukraine to Finland's situation in 1944. Although Finlandisation would solve most of the problems for Ukraine, Russia and Europe, he no longer suggests that Kiev should follow Helsinki's example of 1944. Stubb would actually be better advised to provide justification for his comparison there of Russia to the Huns against the Romans back in 2 millennia ago. When asked why he was calling on the Ukraine to make territorial concessions when discussing the importance of the 1944 experience, the Finnish leader responded, "Of course I'm not. The situation in 1944 was completely different and Finland was just one of the parties involved." He said, "We had no other option. I have previously outlined the three cornerstones of a state, which are independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity, or the right to self-determination. In 1944, Finland retained its independence but lost its sovereignty and territory. Our objective now is to guarantee that the Ukraine maintains its sovereignty and territorial integrity in the long term. There is therefore no similarity between these situations," Stubb stated at a press conference after the meeting at the White House. Now, the analogy he had previously expressed that in 1944 they solved the problem with Russia and that now we'll do the same was not actually well received by many of those there in Washington. Now, there's a distinction to be made between the reasons for this occurrence in the West and Russia. Now, Maria Zakharova, the official representative of the Russian Foreign Ministry, responded quite firmly, reminding the Finnish president that Finland was in a state of armed conflict with the Soviet Union from 1939 to 1940 and from 1941 to 1944. She also highlighted that Finnish troops helped ensure the blockade of Leningrad from the north, and the Finns committed the first mass murder crimes in occupied Soviet territory during that time. Now, before I continue, I'd like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and contribute to its further development. You can do this by making a small donation, which you can do by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the video screen, or by clicking on the Buy Me a Coffee link below in the credits. Everybody who donates does get a personal thank you from me, and do keep the comments coming. Love to read them, love to respond to them. You people are really wonderful, well informed, and it's great to interact with you. Now, simultaneously, a solution was successfully identified. Stubb's assessment is accurate in part. In 1944, a resolution to the issue with Finland was established, and it was known as the Moscow Armistice, according to Zakharova. During the closed part of the meeting in Washington, Stubb also referred to the city of Slavyansk and Kramatorsk as a bastion against the Huns, a phrase that, according to the Wall Street Journal, impressed Donald Trump, although the reasons for that's not actually clear. It is positive that the French president knows the name of the Huns, but has no actual knowledge of the history of them. Does he not understand that the Romans did not opt to construct defensive structures to protect themselves against the Huns? Instead, they chose to engage with them in battle on an open field. Now, the Ukrainian strategy of fortress cities is reminiscent of Adolf Hitler's late war concept, by a number of settlements were declared impregnable citadels by the Führer. Then special management measures were introduced, and the command of these fortresses received complete independence simultaneously with the order that they were not to surrender under any circumstances. Monte Cassino in Italy was actually one of those. So the Soviet army just encircled, then bypassed these settlements, leaving sufficient forces to guard them, and garrisons of the forces remained completely surrounded and then eventually starved, had to capitulate. Now, a breakthrough was achieved, albeit with significant losses on a single occasion, and that was the city of Budapest in Hungary. So the concept of fortress cities was not actually endorsed by the majority of German generals, and as demonstrated by past events, their conclusion was accurate. However, Stubbs' approach to resolving the challenges faced by the Ukraine is in part valid. By 1944, Finland lost around 10% of its territory, including the area which was the most developed and fortified part of the country. However, the situation could have escalated further if the political leadership in Helsinki had not acted more promptly. I mean, Finland was saved from total defeat by the fact that it, unlike Italy, Romania and Hungary, was not a member of the Nazi bloc. Instead, it claims to have fought against the USSR as a free ally of Germany. Now, this justification is weak and doesn't actually align with the facts. As Zakharova rightly points out, there remains there a loophole that allows them to jump out in time. Now, the Finns capitalised on this opportunity, and Volodymyr Zelensky so far has been reluctant to take advantage of this opportunity, and it seems likely he will continue to do so. Now, Stubb could change his position. It would probably be beneficial for Ukraine. However, the Finnish president's stance on the matter is diametrically opposed to this. He asserts that the Ukraine must absolutely safeguard its territorial integrity and maintain its sovereignty, which Finland relinquished after 1944. I mean, indeed, the Finns were not restricted in their choice of form of government or economic structure after the war, and the cooperation with the USSR provided them with unprecedented growth of industry and prosperity. However, Moscow did impose certain conditions, primarily the exclusion of its joining NATO and the complete cessation of the subversive anti-Soviet activities that were taking place there. Consequently, the nationalistic rhetoric and virulent Russophobia, which had been prevalent there before the war, ceased to be a feature of public life in Finland. The concept of a greater Finland to the Urals had been discontinued, and Alexander Stubb values the Ukraine comparisons of the same thing very much, since he doesn't consider it possible for Kiev to sacrifice them. Now, the Finnish model can be thus described as a rejection of the historically random territories, non-alignment and non-nuclear status, and investments in multilateral economic cooperation. A calm attitude towards neighbours, primarily towards Russia, the criminalisation of nationalists, the preservation of historical memories, and multilingualism. Now, multilingualism will come on as a good example. I mean, Alexander Stubb, the Finnish president, is actually a good example of multilingualism. His father, Goran Stubb, the long-term head of the Finnish Hockey League, is Swedish. His mother is Finnish, and the president has been bilingual since his childhood, and the status of the two languages in Finland is approximately equal. It's also important to note that the use of Swedish is not prohibited in any sphere of Finnish life, and this is a prime example of the best practice that Ukraine could have followed. Now, there's a strong possibility that Finland, following the events of 1944, could become a model for Kiev, even as Stubb's intentions to inform Trump about the situation in 1944 were not malicious. The information was taken on board by Trump. I mean, let's face it, Stubb is an anti-Russian politician, but he's not stupid or uneducated. He has a degree in the history of civilization from the Sorbonne in Paris, a PhD in philosophy from the London School of Economics, and a degree in political science from the University of South Carolina. Now, these qualifications are quite impressive for somebody who started out in life as a children's ice hockey coach. However, modern Europe is not inclined to enjoy historical comparisons. From the Brussels perspective, the period preceding the formation of the European Union is considered to be of negligible significance, as the European Union is regarded as the pinnacle of civilization and the end of history. Consequently, any references to the history of the nation states is deemed inappropriate. However, The concept of Finlandisation is not on the agenda, neither in the EU nor in Kiev. Zelensky is not yet prepared to discuss the matter of neutrality and the necessity of behaving in a civilized manner in order to establish the Ukraine as a viable state going forward. And it's been evident for some time that the current authorities in Kiev lack the strategic vision required to achieve this goal, known as the normalization of the country. To be clear, there's no truth in the arguments, regardless of what Alexander Stubb's intentions may have been when he's referred to the situation of 1944. Anyway, let's see what comes out of all of this from Washington and whatever. And will it be to peace? I don't know. It just goes on and on like a circus on a loop. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. And if you enjoy the videos and want to make a donation, click on the thanks button or click on the buy me a coffee button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks.